So let's go ahead and see an example of what this marker creation looks like. I'm going to go ahead and read at a very slow pace and describe the kind of markers that I'm picking out and try to describe them in vivid detail. And then I'll be mapping them and I'll try to find Google images that somewhat come close to the markers that come to mind for me. And this is going to allow you to understand exactly what I mean when I say detailed, vivid imagery, and also to understand which type of words I'm creating markers for. So the first thing I notice, obviously, is Garden City movement. Now, I happen to live in a garden city of Tel Aviv, and so I picture Rothschild Boulevard, which is a very green area, and I'm picturing a specific block and in front of a specific restaurant that I know, where the trees are particularly vivid and green and full of light. The next thing I notice is 1898. It's tough for me to find a marker for that, so I don't particularly come up with one. The next thing I'm going to notice is Ebenezer Howard. Now, Ebenezer is a pretty rare name. I only have one neural node for that name, and it's Ebenezer Scrooge. So I come up with him. United Kingdom. I actually don't come up with a flag of the United Kingdom because sometimes for me it's confusing with the other Commonwealth flags. Instead, I actually come up with a map of England specifically, but kind of the entire United Kingdom. Garden cities, green belts, that's pretty easy. I come up with a green leather belt. Particularly, I see it on a pair of blue jeans, but a green belt in general. Moving on to the next paragraph, I see the word utopian, and in that I see a white marble city square with streams of water running up to a fountain. I see this in kind of very vivid detail. I don't have anything for looking backward immediately, but I kind of picture a guy in a top hat looking over his shoulder. Now, Henry George, those both happen to be names of British kings, and so I imagine an image of King George during the King's Speech, the father, not the son. Progress and poverty. For the word poverty, I actually see children during the Great Depression standing in line. Garden cities of tomorrow. I already have a marker for the garden city. Now, in 1902, I happen to know that there was a World Fair that was supposed to happen in New York but was canceled. So I'm envisioning a canceled World Fair. I'm envisioning people rolling back machinery back into a warehouse. For 32,000, that's kind of a strange number. The first thing that comes to mind for me is that's exactly 32 gigabytes, right? And so I actually picture an iPhone because that's a product that comes in a variant of 32 gigabytes. 6,000, nothing particularly comes to mind very quickly, but it's acres, so I might picture a huge field of land. 6 radial boulevards. For that, I actually picture a hub and spoke, kind of like a wagon wheel. Radial is the word I want there. Boulevards, I picture a community around where I grew up, which is called Boulevard. What else? We have a cluster of several garden cities as satellites. Now for this, I actually just picture probably what's in reality a space telescope, the Hubble Space Telescope. It's probably kind of a strange example, but I have a very vivid image of what that satellite looks like. So it's easy for me to come up with and just jump to it right away. Peaceful path to real reform. For this, I actually picture an Israeli and Palestinian flag. It's kind of my personal marker for reform and peace. Garden cities of tomorrow, again, that same marker is jumping back of Rothschild Boulevard. Here I immediately jump to overcrowding and deterioration. Overcrowding, I actually see a huge square of people pushing and shoving, and just complete chaos. Working class, the first thing that comes to me here is actually someone in very dirty overalls. One of the straps of the overalls is kind of let loose, and so the overalls are kind of hanging off his body. I can literally see the dirt under his fingernails. Maybe he's a coal miner. I can see his particular hairstyle. It's kind of like someone out of the movie Oh Brother, Where Art Thou? So again, a very detailed, vivid image here. So this should kind of give you an idea of not just the words that I'm choosing, and you'll notice that sometimes I'll just skip over particular words or concepts, like 6,000. I couldn't come up with something very quick for that, and so I chose to make a marker for 32,000 instead. You also notice that I took very particular details, not kind of the overall pictures, but specific. And I have Henry George now in my memory. I have 32,000 in my memory. I have overcrowding in my memory, because I just need to play back these detailed images. And what that's going to give me is an overall picture of what was happening during the time that the Garden City movement was promoted. I now can deduct from the details to know that it was a response to overcrowding. It was a response to criticism from the working class. It was a response to criticism that cities were becoming too crowded. I also know from my marker of 1902 and my marker of Ebenezer who was doing the promoting and who was really bringing this movement to life and where he was. So I encourage you to play around with this and keep trying it and keep practicing it. Hopefully this lecture has helped you kind of see the concrete, in practice way of creating markers.